All right, peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk about the latest coming out of Washington, D.C., where Representative Jim Jordan has shown that he doesn't have enough votes in this first round of voting, as the GOP is still trying to pick its leader within the House. We'll talk a little bit about that. And also, let's talk about how there is a movement in Amherst, Massachusetts to move further along on the reparations side of things. But wait till I break down this story for you to tell you how they're planning to fund reparations in Amherst, right outside of Boston. So you'll love to hear what they have to say about this one. And then later on, we are into day 2 of the Culture's Black Men Summit. Today, we're going to talk about Black men in politics. And I'm very, very happy to have this conversation. We're going to bring back my brother Rashad Statton, the Executive Director of Community Law and Action. We're going to also check in with Judge Eric Coleman of Hartford, Connecticut, to talk about how Black men can be engaged in the process, even beyond voting. So we're going to have that discussion. And of course, we're going to open up the conversation to you, because no conversation is complete without you. So we're making sure that you have something to say as well. So stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being a part of the conversation. We are streaming live right now on our home website at blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media, and make sure you do your part to power this digital movement, this digital space. So your financial donations will be greatly appreciated and highly appreciative. And we're just grateful that you will have the chance to be a part of this great movement. So again, go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. We're also streaming on various platforms. Let's start with Amazon. We are on Amazon Prime Video. So you can go to our on Amazon Prime, do the Prime Video app under Live TV, go to News, or you can find us at Amazon.com under Prime Video, then Live TV, then News. So we're on Prime Video. We're also on Amazon News on your Fire TV. And we're also on Plex TV, where you can find us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, along with Freevee. That network, you can find us there under News, and there you can always find us on all of those platforms and on social media, on Facebook, as well as on our YouTube page. And just go to Roland Martin's YouTube page, and that's where you'll see us streaming live, folks. And that's where you'll also find the illustrious Culture crew. And big shout out to the crew today. Folks are checking in from all around the country to be a part of the conversation. I'm very, very excited to hear what people have to say about the conversations that we got planned for today. But if you have not joined the Culture crew, you can do so today, right now. We got people checking in. I see my folks, Pastor Damon Blissett. Peace, Brother Damon. My sister Tiana, thank you so much for checking in. Merrill Dunlap, good afternoon. Thank you so much for checking in. Renee Dari, thank you. Hello, Renee. Pretty Brown Mimi, 726. Hey, Mimi. Thank you for checking in. The ABX girl. I see you, ABX girl. Thank you so much. Midwest Black girl. Thank you. Also, my big brother Willie Frazier is in the chat. Brother Willie, looking forward to hearing from you. My sister Lana, what's happening? Peace and blessings, Lana. Thank you again for checking in and being a part of it. And Lana's always one of our great microphones, always telling people to like and share the post. Come on, there it is right there. Also, the beautiful Bernice, thank you so much for checking in, beautiful Bernice. And Conscious Thought, good to connect with you. V. Griffin, I see you. Arlene Satchel, hi, Arlene. Thank you for checking in. And so many of you are checking in from all across the country. Make sure you tell your friends and family about it. This is the only show where you are a part of the discussion that your voice matters. So We thank you so much for joining us and being a part of today's Culture Crew. All right, let me go very quickly to this latest situation out of Washington, D.C., folks, as Representative Jim Jordan is trying to do his part. He's trying to get into the leadership role, and it looks like at this moment, based on the first round of votings, he does not meet the quota to get those votes. And of course, Hakeem Jeffries is officially been backed by the Democrats. So several House Republicans are opposing Jim Jordan. He needs 217 of the 221 members to back him in order to win his bid for Speaker. 217 to 221. So he is down. He's the Republican out of Ohio. He fell short on this first round of voting. He was nominated last week to be Speaker after House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, who is the representative out of Louisiana, he withdrew from the race. They're saying that several House Republicans are opposing Jim Jordan. And the Democrats, of course, is backing the House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York. Representative Matt Gaetz, the representative out of Florida, he was the trigger of this whole situation after he led the ousting of Representative Kevin McCarthy, who's the representative out of California, as House Speaker, and won a majority vote when all Democrats and 8 Republicans voted against McCarthy. If you don't know anything about Jim Jordan, folks, Jim Jordan has been an ally in former President Donald Trump, who endorsed him for the job. So that's a little bit of a nutshell. But they're also saying that it is Jordan's lack of organization that is really starting to show up. And NBC News is reporting this so far. And Lisa and Kristen, I wonder if you can just tap in. NBC News has just reported for the first ballot that Jeffries is at 212 and Jordan is at 200. So if y'all can check on that and tell my team if we can check on that to see where the voting is for Hakeem Jeffries as it relates to Jim Jordan and who possibly will be the Speaker. It is going to be another contentious day in Washington, D.C. around this situation. Let's go to what you got to say on this, crew, and then we got to take our first pause. What's your take on Jim Jordan? What is your take, Warina? I think this is, and I don't want to mess up your name, but it looks like Warina Still. Warina, you said Hakeem is a smart man. Speaking of Representative Hakeem Jeffries, yes, he is, absolutely. Who else we got in here in the chat? Felicia D. Henderson. Felicia, thank you for checking in. You said sensible Republicans, if there are any left, should back Hakeem Jeffries. If there are any left, that is the conditional phrase right there. If there are any left, should be backing Hakeem Jeffries. Anybody any person that has the stamp of approval by Donald Trump. Y'all see where I'm going with this? Y'all see where I'm going with this? Anybody that has the stamp of approval from Donald Trump. Tiana, you said Jim Jordan is an insurrectionist who shouldn't even be considered for House Speaker. That's a great point. I mean, what are we doing here, folks? Excellent point, Tiana. We know Jim Jordan went all in on the January 6th situation. And we know that he is this ally, very close ally. Trump gave him the stamp of approval, but his politics, folks, his politics. Man, this is why we got to talk about this. Reginald DJ Thomas, you said Hakeem Jeffries had 212 votes. Jim Jordan had 200. McCarthy has 6. Those 6 votes should have went to Hakeem, in my opinion. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at too, Reginald. That's the numbers I'm looking at. And we're going to be checking in with the team about that. Yep, 212 for Jeffries right now. They need 221. The beautiful Bernice, you said, wasn't Jim Jordan caught lying? Are you talking about caught lying for what? Let me know, Bernice, because I wanna know, because I want to make sure we can check that. What are you said lying about the 2020 election? You mean siding with Trump during that whole fiasco? Just let me know. Great question. ABX girl, you said George Clooney documentary HBO has Jim as a well-known assaulter from Ohio State. Hmm. I'm not surprised. Not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. Sharon Gregory, checking in. You said Jim Jordan has been in that seat for 2 decades and has yet to pass a bill. What the hell has he been doing? Boy, if we use that, the criteria, then I think that should be that would clean house for a lot of people, right, Sharon? What you been doing for all these years? You come into the door with a lot of fire, and then you stay in there. You go from being an innovator to a manager, then just to all out being complicit with the foolishness. That's unfortunately some of the track, the pathway that some of these political leaders, they come in there with great ideas, the different vision, wanting to clean the swamp, quote unquote, wanting to bring some new life into the system and all of that stuff. And then next thing you know, that starts to die down. That starts to die down. Nicole Smith, you said, what is in the closets of the other 200 and something Republicans that none of them will step up to be? Come on, Nicole. We ain't got enough time, sis. We ain't got enough time to look at other people's closets. Midwest Black Girl, you said, I like Hakeem Jeffries. If he the devil, then send me to hell 100 times because I want to be with him. Wow. Okay. All right, Midwest Black Girl, calm down now. I see you. I definitely see you. I understand. Lana, you said Jim Jordan equal do a background check. He's not all clean. Hey, Lana, let me ask you a question. Who is? Who is clean? Who is clean in this situation? Look, folks, again, Jim Jordan, Representative Jim Jordan, and Hakeem Jeffries. And I'm just asking my dynamic team just to keep me up to date on if there's some new votes coming in for Hakeem Jeffries or Jim Jordan at this point. But they were looking at 212 for Hakeem Jeffries, 200 for Jim Jordan. It would change the game if Hakeem Jeffries becomes a new House Speaker at this point. What y'all say? It would change the game if he becomes the House Speaker. Warina, you said Hakeem got swag and intelligence. He's absolutely. He comes from a long line of great thinkers. Great movers and shakers, people that have added to the culture, especially in the city of New York. So it's going to be interesting. Look, I'm going to do this. I want to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we'll keep our eyes on this, but just wanted to bring y'all up to date on this whole situation. The race to be who's going to be the next Speaker of the House is on. Jim Jordan did not get enough votes in the first round. Hakeem Jeffries has more votes at this time than he does at this point. So this is another serious moment in democracy in America, where we stand. We're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about some other things, because as that is happening, I do want to bring y'all up to speed on this story out of Amherst, Massachusetts around reparations. Wait till y'all hear this story. And I want to get your take on this, crew. And then, of course, at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, let's go into a further conversation about the culture, about politics, because we're going to be into day 2 of the Culture's Black Men Summit, and we're going to talk about Black men in politics, especially on a day where you have a Hakeem Jeffries. So we're going to be checking in with my brother Rashad. We're also going to have the judge from the Connecticut Supreme Court, Judge Eric Coleman. He's a Democrat out of Hartford, and we're going to talk to him about Black men in politics. So stay with us. We got a lot more to cover here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
This motion is perilous. The House will be paralyzed. We can expect week after week of fruitless ballots while no other business can be conducted. Democrats will revel in Republican dysfunction, and the public will rightly be repulsed. It'll end when the Democrats are able to enlist the rump caucus of Republicans to join a coalition to end the impasse. This House will shift dramatically to the left and will effectively end the Republican House majority that the voters elected in 2022. And this, in turn, will neutralize the only counterweight in our elected government to the woke left control.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. I just want to let my team know about the sound situation. We do have, you're hearing some of the proceedings coming from Washington. At least let's make sure that we can get that cleaned up. Thank you so much, Lee. As we talk a little bit about politics and as it relates to this current space right here. And we're knowing that the House Speaker, we may have a House Speaker that's going to be chosen today. It could be Hakeem Jeffries, or it could be Representative Jim Jordan, even though he didn't get enough votes in his first round. So they're moving on. But it looks like, based upon the numbers, all the Democrats is down party lines. All the Democrats are moving forward with nominating Hakeem Jeffries. But on the other side, Jim Jordan does not have all of the full votes of the Republicans. So he, as it stands right now, and Chris, just want to make sure that we keep these numbers up to date. Hakeem Jeffries is at 212, and then Jim Jordan's at 200. So I'm keeping my man, my guy Chris on this, and any other Culture crew members. If y'all seeing something different, please put it in the chat so we can all stay up to date on what's happening here. But as it stands right now, 212 for Hakeem Jeffries and 200 for Representative Jim Jordan. Now we're going to keep our eyes on that, and this may be another major moment in the House, folks. Another major moment, especially after that historic ousting of Kevin McCarthy. This situation here, as it currently stands, this may be a situation where we start to see the needle being pushed once again. And it happens like that sometimes. It happens like that sometimes, right? Warina, you saying Hakeem got this. I mean, if he can get if he gets a couple of Republicans, right? If he gets a couple of Republicans, and so if he is able to get some extra little couple of votes here, or if he's able to get a couple of votes there, he might be able to lock it in. He might be able to lock it in. So, it's very, very important that we keep our eyes on this. And I know a lot of y'all in the chat, a lot of crew members, y'all are very politically astute, highly conscious about, the importance of this. And, I'm thinking of all of you, from Janelle to all of you. Y'all know the implications of this, how major of a moment this would be in this country if we're seeing a historic ousting of a GOP member by his own party, only to be replaced by a Democratic person, a Democratic leader. How major and how game-changing that would be in the big scheme of things. But if you are the GOP, if you are the Republican Party, and you have lost the identity of yourself, you have compromised the quote-unquote values that you say you believe and stand upon, this is what could happen. Chaos and confusion can be the end result of this. You don't like my music? Good to come hear from you, bro. You don't like my music? You said Jim Jordan is a clown. Yeah. If you got the stamp of the approval of the former president, folks, then that's all I'm going to say. Calvin Thomas. Calvin, you said, I like Jeffries because he is intelligent and charismatic. However, we need more than just another black face. We must have representation for black people. And Calvin, I am so happy that you tuned in today, because that's exactly what we're going to be talking about here, especially for the second day of the Black Men Summit that we have scheduled for 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So Calvin, I personally am inviting you to stay with us in the chat, because this is the best place that you're going to have these conversations and really emphasize that point. But I'm absolutely grateful, brother, that you brought that up. You're absolutely right. We must have representation, and I'm talking about real representation. I'm talking about that real representation, folks, of what this might look like. Donna McAdoo Kelly. Donna, you said this should tell all of us to head to the ballot box. Absolutely. Absolutely. See, this is when, and I can go back and forth about the national election, the presidential election. But y'all know when the real change happens on that state and local level. So to your point, Donna, if you put if your state puts a black person, whether it's a man or a woman, a black person into office, and you got to make sure that that black political leader has the wherewithal to really represent, because you don't know what may happen, just in the case of Hakeem Jeffries, to elevate that person, right, that may take the cause, take the struggle to the next level. Absolutely. Absolutely. Joyce Jenkins, you said Jim, Mr. Jim, I don't report sex crime Jordan. Yeah, he said that. That's what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Calvin, you said this is blood in the water that we need to capitalize off of, start shifting things, and then start shifting things our way. Absolutely. I agree with you, bro. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Now, let me just throw this out there, then we're going to take another pause in a quick moment. I want to throw this out there as that is happening in Washington. Can we talk about reparations in this country? So we know that there is a national reparations movement that is happening. And Lana, I think you will appreciate this. Let me pull this up. There's a national reparations movement that is happening in this country. But the thing is, it has to start on a local level, then build its way up to the federal level. That's how this thing is starting. There is no national mandate or any federal legislation. And I think for good reasons, we're not at that point yet, because you still want to build the base. You still want to build the momentum. We may not see a national reparation policy until, say, the next presidential administration, right? Come 2024, until that time. But this is how politics work. You got to build that coalition to make sure that You have a firm foundation to stand upon. So when you do take it to the federal level, you have the backing of various states behind you, right? That's political organizing. So in Boston, the Massachusetts college town, Amherst, they are one of the country's first places to establish a reparations fund for Black residents. And right now they're looking at possibly spending the proceeds of the $2 million endowment on youth programs, affordable housing, and grants for businesses, right? So I'm gonna say that again: youth programs, affordable housing, and grants for business. This is out of Massachusetts, folks. So you got three things that are systemic, institutional challenges for Black people in Amherst, Massachusetts. And Amherst is only they only have about 40,000 people in Amherst, but it's 6% Black. According to the report, the Amherst Town Council established the reparation fund 2 years ago as a result of the protests coming from the killing of George Floyd. So last night, they considered a report from the town's African Heritage Reparations Assembly on how those funds should be spent. And the amount of funding would be equivalent to the annual tax revenue the town raises from cannabis sales. Y'all hear me? This town is looking to fund its reparation from cannabis sale. I know we're gonna have to have a larger conversation with this. I already sent the story to Dr. Bridget. So for her to understand, for her to kind of process and give us some more insight into this for later on. But cannabis sales is funding the reparations movement. Cannabis sales for this year, which is projected to be about $200,000 a year, they had an initial plan to grow this reparations fund over a decade, over a 10-year period, and then sustainably donate as much as $100,000 a year in the town. But the assembly, which was appointed by the town manager, wants to accelerate that timeline, and perhaps by borrowing from reserves to allocate the money immediately, dedicating $100,000 from cannabis tax revenues to be spent on reparations annually, or aiming to reach the $2 million goal in 4 years rather than 10 years. Y'all with me on this? Y'all listening? Y'all hear this? So this is all in Amherst. And ABX girl, you're right. Amherst is home to the flagship school of University of Massachusetts system. You're right. They have a college campus out there. So they're looking to move forward on this whole process. I want to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue to talk about this. What's your take on this? As they're looking to take the money from cannabis sales, funding the reparations movement, and then accelerating the timeline, cutting down the initial timeline of 10 years to cut it down to 4 years, and then use that $2 million that they're expected to raise, and perhaps getting some other funds, but to use at least $2 million for youth programs, affordable housing, and grants for businesses. They did not say that personal checks would be given as of yet. That's not part of the conversation. They're looking at doing things on a systemic, institutional level. Crew, I want to get your take on this. Join us in the conversation. And of course, stay tuned. We're more about this story on the other side here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Keeping our eyes on what's happening politically right now in the country, folks. Representative Jim Jordan and Representative Hakeem Jeffries are in a close race, a close battle for who could possibly will be the next Speaker of the House. Let's show some footage on that, team, to see where we are with this whole process, Lisa. I don't know if we can kind of peer our eyes, put some eyes on which lawmakers are doing and who's doing what. So just let me know when we can put something, we can get some more information about that. But we've been talking a little bit about this, but I wanted to bring this up, and we don't have a lot of time today, of course, to get in too deep into the situation, but Amherst, can y'all say that with me? Amherst, Massachusetts, home of one of the places for the University of Massachusetts, they are moving forward in a reparations effort, folks, where they're taking money from cannabis sales to fund the reparations fund to get to a goal of $2 million. And then that $2 million would be allocated to youth programs, ensuring affordable housing, and some other programs, social programs for Black residents in Amherst, Massachusetts. So I want to kind of get your take on this very quickly, to get your take on what do you all think of this idea? Because this is different. Like in all of the reparations talk, I haven't heard any town or any city say, hey, we're going to use cannabis sales to fund the reparations fund. This is where you got to get creative in public service. Very creative. Let me see here. What we got here? I saw my sister Lana. You said, Lana, I didn't know about Amherst, but let me research. But Farajii, cash payments are due too. This is systemic, but not enough. Great start and love the cannabis tie. Yeah. Well, that's why we're bringing it up. So I'm thinking, please, Lana, please, let's do some research on that. I would love to get your take on that. And your thoughts about cash payments are due as well. If I know that my cash payments, I understand the importance of cash payments, but my concern, of course, we've already talked about this, is that that money is going to be spent and go right back into the system. And then America will be like, yep, told y'all, we gave you your money, so you are repaired. I want to make sure that the repairing the damage that was done to us is something that our children can enjoy, and not that we can just enjoy in just in this moment. I'm talking about years from now. Whether it's an educational repair, housing repair, youth programs repair, mental health services repair, I want legacy repair. Can we ask for that? I don't want. And look, Taylor, you said give a man a fish or a rod, right? I mean, fish is good, right? We actually been at this current moment. Yes, you say you get a check. That's all well and good, right? But we're still dealing with the systemic parts of the stuff, right? So I think that that's one of the big, factors of this. But to your point, Lana, I think the other part of it is each city, each town will have their own interests for Black residents. So I don't think if you live in Amherst and I'm living in Los Angeles, my needs as a member of the Black community here in LA is much different than the needs of Black folks in Amherst. Do what's good for your people in your neck of the woods of the country. That would be what I would say. Do this, what's good for you. What's good for Black folks in Amherst might be youth programs, affordable housing, and all of those good things. That's good for Black folks in Amherst. If that is a pathway to justice, if that is a pathway to repairing the damage, then by all means do it. I don't think we should have a blanket general, and y'all tell me this very quickly, if we should have a blanket or general solution. Do what's good for Black folks in your neck of the woods. But in order for Black folks to identify what is good, you got to be conscious, you got to be informed, you got to be educated. My brother Pastor Damon Blissett, you said Farajii, money means nothing if the system isn't fixed. Come on, man. Come on. It means nothing. You're right, Pastor. It means nothing if the system isn't fixed, because we're going to continue to fund a broken system. We might get that little TV, get a car. I mean, depends. I'm just thinking, I'm not diminishing that. But us as a generation of Black folks in this country, at this point, we can't just think about ourselves. We got to think about the future. All right, we're going to take one more, and then we got to take another break in preparation for day 2 of the Black Men Summit. We got some dope conversation lined up for y'all, man, with some fantastic guests. Monkey Confession, she said, I have never heard any other group argue against cash payment. Well, but what other group has been the brunt of a broken system like Black folks have been? They might not argue about cash payment because they still have some level of privilege within the system. We don't have no privilege. We don't have no respect. We're not seen as human by the system standards. We're not seen worthy of investment by the system standards. All right, let me take one more. You said you don't like my music? Reparations shouldn't be a one-time cash payment. It goes way beyond that. Way beyond that, bro. Way beyond that. We're going to take a quick pause. I want us to put that one on the burner. Keep that thought. We'll certainly we may talk a little bit more about that on the other side. But let's take a moment. Let's keep our eyes on this Jim Jordan situation to see how things are moving forward. But today, folks, it is a perfect day for us to have day 2 of our Black Men Summit. Up next, we're going to talk about Black men in politics. Stay tuned for that, because we got some dynamic guests. And more importantly, we got a conversation that you just don't want to miss. So on the other side, it is the Culture's Black Men Summit, day 2, Black Men in Politics, coming right at you here on The Culture, on the Black Star Network. Woo! Peace, I'm Farajii Muhammad, host of The Culture. And brothers, we need to talk. There's been much discussion about the state of the black man in our community. Whether it's in politics, education, or in the home, my brothers, we are struggling to lead the way, which is why The Culture will be hosting the Black Men Summit, where we'll be redefining and celebrating black manhood. This special series will kick off on the 28th anniversary of the historic Million Man March on Monday, October the 16th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be talking to some of Black America's most prolific, dynamic, thought-provoking black men activists, scholars, and leaders about our role, our power, and our future. So tune in and join the conversation as an online culture crew member for The Culture's Black Men Summit, redefining and celebrating black manhood. Starting Monday, October 16th through Friday, October 20th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time each day, right here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Peace, I'm Farajii Muhammad, host of The Culture. And brothers, we need to talk. There's been much discussion about the state of the black man in our community. Whether it's in politics, education, or in the home, my brothers, we are struggling to lead the way, which is why The Culture will be hosting the Black Men Summit, where we'll be redefining and celebrating black manhood. This special series will kick off on the 28th anniversary of the historic Million Man March on Monday, October the 16th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be talking to some of Black America's most prolific, dynamic, thought-provoking black men activists, scholars, and leaders about our role, our power, and our future. So tune in and join the conversation as an online culture crew member for The Culture's Black Men Summit, redefining and celebrating black manhood. Starting Monday, October 16th through Friday, October 20th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time each day, right here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Peace and welcome to the Culture's Black Men Summit here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, today is a very, very special day as we go into day 2 of our Black Men Summit, a day where we're going to focus on politics. So it's actually quite fascinating that on a day like today, as we talk about Black men in politics, that there is a hotly contested situation or vote that's happening right now where a Black man, Representative Hakeem Jeffries, is up for consideration to possibly be the next House Speaker. So we've been keeping our eyes on this situation. And if this seems to happen in the midst of a GOP fracture, where they have ousted one of their very own members, Kevin McCarthy, just a couple of weeks ago, now to be in a place where the folks that they wanted to be there, they at first thought Representative Steve Scalise out of Louisiana would be the next House Speaker. He drops out of the race, and now it's left to Representative Jim Jordan, who was not able to get the full amount of the full quota votes of 221 votes to become the next House Speaker. So they're doing another round. And so that has left the lane to be open for Democrats to push forward Representative Hakeem Jeffries at this time, where he is actually up in the votes. Right now, the votes stand at 212 for Representative Hakeem Jeffries and 200 votes for Representative Jim Jordan. And people are trying to see if history will once again be made in the House of Representatives. Now, today, we're going to have this discussion about this whole situation, but more importantly, we're going to have this discussion about how Black men can become more engaged in the political process. And so I'm very, very excited to talk to our first guest. He serves as a pastor. He is also an activist. He is a man that knows his way around not just the political space, but also in the community. I've had the honor and the privilege of working with this man and just knowing this man for years. He has literally watched me grow up in the city of Baltimore as I've done the work of community organizing and activism. But we wanted to bring him here to talk to us about Black men being engaged in the political process. We want to welcome to the airwaves of the culture here on the Black Star Network, Dr. Reverend Todd Years. Has been working in the area of equity and civil rights. He does so for the city of Baltimore. Brother Todd, how are you, dear brother? Good afternoon.
Farajii Muhammad, if I had known I was going to have a family reunion today, I'd have signed up for this a long time ago. I can't tell you. This has made my week and the week just getting started. My man.
Well, I appreciate you, brother, for being on the culture. Welcome.
Dude, I'm special. You wait till I tell all of my friends.
I'm happy to see you again, big brother. I'm happy to see you.
Man.
Let me just say, so for those who don't know, that Reverend Todd Geary is a man that works behind the scenes. He doesn't do a lot of that grandstanding in terms of wanting to be in front of the camera. But if you want to know where power is, if you want to know how the system works, if you want to know how to get people moving, Reverend Todd Geary is the guy to go to learn. He knows all of the ins and outs, especially of local politics, state politics, and of course, keeping his eyes on what's happening nationally. So, Brother Todd, I am truly, truly honored. And it's such a pleasure to once again see you, brother. And yeah, we're right here on this space, and I couldn't think of somebody better to be a part of this conversation. Let's start off the conversation with this piece, Brother Todd. And I know we're going to have more brothers checking in with us, but I wanted to start off this first. I want to get your take on what's happening within the House of Representatives with Hakeem Jeffries, Representative Jim Jordan, what we're seeing here on a national level. What do you see in terms of Black folks getting political power in this moment right now?
So there's a lot to that question. Let's start with what's going on. The circus has come to town. The clowns have showed up for work. They all rolled in a little car, red noses, big shoes, and here we go. And so what you have is the dysfunction within the Republican Party that's been kind of in this interesting space of negotiating around interests without really coalescing around an agenda. And it is playing itself out just as you see all of the other noise outside the room with the former president, his legal issues, and also trying to figure out how the Republican nomination is going to play out, even at the same time when you have a current incumbent of the White House of the Democratic Party with all of the first not really being able to get traction after all of the otherwise forward social program policies that he was able to get through in his first 2 years. So you have this interesting dynamic. The challenge is now that we're at the end of the pandemic, now that things have kind of reset, now that gas prices are as scary now as they have ever been, prices for everything is high. You can't even pay attention without paying a premium. Those are the issues that are making a lot of folks, not just Black folk, feel very vulnerable and very uncertain. The issue for Black men is the issues affecting Black men don't seem to be part of the public discourse or the public conversation. And so when we look at how we're navigating, you've got the wars in the Middle East likely to expand after the incident today with the bombing of the hospital. You've got other major world players deciding they're not going to sit out. China and Russia are now starting to have their conversation. The war between Russia and Ukraine is still demanding a lot of attention, and the pressure on NATO to try to further expand against this building coalition between North Korea, China, Russia, and other countries means then now there's a whole lot of noise at the top and a whole lot of pain at the bottom. And so when we start looking at what needs to go on and what needs to go down, as I've often said, and you know we've talked about this at the grassroots level in Baltimore City, is that politics always starts locally. We can't just get enamored with the big shiny thing at the top, but we have to also understand that budgets are passed at all levels of government. Public money is spent local, state, and federal. And if we're not having a complete conversation, if we're just waiting on some crumbs to fall from the master's table in the White House, we're going to find ourselves actually in a much more precarious situation than we are right now.
Wow. Waiting for some crumbs to fall from the master's table. Because I feel like that's exactly the space that we're in, Brother Todd, that we are in a place right now where we're hoping and wishing instead of moving and making things happen. That's exactly where I feel. Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's go further along in this because, Brother Todd, you know, you have been in these spaces for these conversations locally and nationally. And Yeah, I know you've done some work with the Obama administration around his initiative about for Black men and boys.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's always interesting to see that these things are happening. We see some level of representation, like we see with Hakeem Jeffries, but at the same time, there's still this lag. And when we come forward on the other side, I want us to talk about this lag, or this disconnect rather, that Black men have with not just with politicians by personality, but with political action. And I'm gonna share with you just some of the studies and the latest research around this. So we're just getting started. We got my brother Reverend Todd Urey, Dr. Todd Urey, joining us. And we want to hear from you folks. Join us in the conversation. We're streaming live right now on Roland Martin's YouTube page. You can join us in the chat and be a Culture Crew member for the day, as we have day 2. We're just getting started with day 2 of the Black Men Summit, redefining and celebrating Black manhood. We're talking Black men in politics today. Stay with us. The conversation continues on the other side here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
But a lot of stuff that we're not getting, you get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back to the Culture's Black Men Summit here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Today is day 2 of our summit, and we're talking Black men in politics. Now, joining me is Dr. Reverend Todd Urey, who is doing some phenomenal work. He serves as the senior pastor of his church. He's also is a political strategist. He's also been working in the space of equity and inclusion and civil rights. And today, whereas we talk about these things, we're talking about the big disconnect that Black men have within the political system, from political parties, and just being us uniting politically all together. In a moment, I want to bring my brother, somebody that I think you might know, Brother Todd, Rashad Stanton. He's going to be joining us as he serves as the Executive Director of Community Law and Action, and he's a young politico himself in the space. But I want to get your take on this very quickly, Brother Todd, because CNN did a piece last year where they talked to a Black man down in Georgia. This was happening when the election of Raphael Warnock happened, when that campaign was going with him, between him and Herschel Walker. And they were trying to get a piece about the sentiment that Black men have. They named the piece, this is interesting, Black men feeling ignored. I want to just pull this piece up very quickly, and I want to get your take on it. It says, Black men say they feel ignored by politicians. It says in this first screen, let's go to quote number 1, please. Thank you. Aaron Bethea says that he has voted election after election for U.S. presidents, governors, and senators, and yet those lawmakers have done little to nothing to improve the life for him, his family, or his community. Bethea said he believes the issues he cares about, financial freedom and equal investment in predominantly Black schools, have largely been ignored. He said, quote, where we are from, nobody really cares about what Black men think. Now, he's an Atlanta father of 6 who owns a wholesale company that sells televisions. He said, they don't do anything for us. Now, Brother Todd, I want to kind of get your take on this. His thing that where we are from, no one really cares about what Black men think. And he speaks to a sentiment where Black men do not feel connected. Black men do not feel like they have a relationship with any political group. Democrats, one of the things they mentioned in this piece is that they said the messaging is wrong, so it doesn't appeal. Republicans, even though that some Black men, we are conservative in some areas of our life, and the idea of families and all of those things might be in alignment, the racism is still a problem. So we're not feeling connected. How do we start to bridge the gap in this situation, Brother Todd?
So there are a couple of things that's telling in the quote. One is having voted in national elections, but trying to get national politics to address my local needs. We've had this disconnect around civics that everything works in the 4-year national presidential cycle. And so we don't see where there have been votes for who's on the city council, who's sitting in the mayor's chair, who's representing us in the state houses. And what we've seen over the last decade or so is the erosion of interest, because what we have is, with the boys running through the house, what we have is the needs of a leaning towards states' rights. What we've seen from this Supreme Court, let's kind of connect these dots. This Supreme Court has taken on more of a posture that individual states get to decide what happens within their borders. If that then means states' rights is the new political framework, we have to have states' rights interests. Remember, electing the president is not a one election thing. It is 50 statewide elections that lead to one presidential outcome. And so if we don't get more attuned to what's happening, not just in DC, but what's happening in Maryland, in Virginia, in North and South Carolina, in Georgia, if we don't have the ability to translate and speak to the needs within that context and connect the dots to how those needs lead us to a nationally organized collective action to determine who's going to sit in the House, who's going to sit in the Senate, who's going to sit in the White House, then those are going to be the issues that leave us behind. And what we've seen, let me take you back to the date when, in I think Bill Clinton's first midterm, Newt Gingrich was the Speaker of the House. And they came out with something called the Contract with America. I think it was a Contract on America. And what they did is they started to work to dismantle and reposition controlling state legislatures and governor's chairs so that when they started redrawing political maps that determine who represents you in the House of Representatives in DC, they started gaming this whole system. And because we got enamored by the optics of personality, yes, we elected Barack Obama as the first Black president, but that was good for optics. We lost a lot in terms of statewide substance. We've got to get back to recognizing that we have a totally comprehensive state by state collaborative process, because we're going to have to do some coalition building, but we cannot this ain't the Jedi mind trick. We can't just look at the shiny thing in front of us trying to figure out who's going to sit in the Oval Office, invite some preachers to come sit by and have a prayer meeting, lay hands on you and do all that other kind of stuff. When after you finish praying, PRAYING, you start praying PREYING on the interest of those who have the most at stake. That's the conversation that we got to get back to. And we got to do real grassroots organizing so that when we build critical mass, it leads to critical outcomes in our favor.
I absolutely love that. I want to bring Brother Rashad into the conversations, who serves as the Executive Director of Community Law and Action. And Brother Rashad, what's your take on this? And welcome again, big brother. Good to see you as always, Brother Rashad. Brother Rashad, what's your take on this? That Black men are not, we don't have a home politically. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We do not have a home politically. I want to throw this out there, and then I want to get your take on this. Let's go to quote number 2 on this, please, Lise. This is what, and we've had our brother Jason Nichols. He talks. He's been a contributor here on the show and for Black Star Network. But he said this in this same CNN quote. He said, if some of them, talking about us as Black men, he said some of them feel unmotivated because they don't feel spoken to, then you really got a problem. He said a lot of these campaigns don't hire Black male advisors. They don't hire Black men to actually tell them how to reach Black men. So far, 39% of Black voters have been men and 61% have been women, according to Catalyst, a company that provides data and other services to Democrats, academics, and nonprofit issue advocacy organizations. So Rashad, is it really just about the messaging? Or is it just like you saying, like Brother Todd is saying, the simple fact that we're in a time and a place where we're not asking for the right stuff. We're involved more with the optics and not looking to really build the substance. What's your take, bro?
Look, I'm listening, and brother Todd is right on point, right? I believe I don't want to be redundant and making his points much clearer because I think he hit it right on the nail. I think the distinction that we are seeing, and to be honest, that quote, I think it makes it much simpler and clear for people to digest the realities. We know in the larger spectrum, especially on a national platform in politics, there's not candidates that have talking points specifically to the demographic of African American or Black American males, right? Those that identify that. One, if they said it's the representation of who's a part of these campaign committees. And we are also noticing that we are not a monolithic people and we have our prioritizations that may be different. But I think the reality is these talking points is also reflective of the populace that they want to continue to attract, knowing that a Democratic Party can easily sway the Black vote by targeting the Black woman. And now we see an emergence of an over-specification of our brown communities, and where we're corralled as Black and brown into one. So if they can tap into another demographic that is already have a continuity of high voter turnout, they don't see the necessary value in the gainfulness of trying to speak directly to Black. I want to say even more specific. I want to get even more specific, Black heterosexual males, right, into 2023. And I think it comes down to the realities of what manhood is and where we are socially, economically, where we are on our educational level, and where we are to the point of what are our priorities, right? And Brother Todd nailed it right there. It's in the reality that I think a lot of it is if we don't make the connection to putting the demands on the local and the state, we will never see it trickle up into the federal level to start to see implementation from the executive level that will actually corral the momentum and the progress that Black men need in this country. I think our front needs to be based off of an economic front, one in particular that gives us gainful employment and trying to rewrite the dark history of the justice system and how they engage with Black males specifically. But I think what we are seeing is absolutely true. Now, what we do is we have to be in the sense of, I always say, if you don't see it, we have to put ourselves in place to be it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, Brother Todd, I want to get your take on what Brother Rashad just said, but more importantly, I want to get your thoughts as well on this idea that I was thinking about in terms of bringing us closer to our political power, talking about voting our values. Folks, if nothing else, we need to figure out what are the key values that we want to see on the ballot. And more importantly, how do Black men get in touch with themselves? How do we get in touch with ourselves, to vote our values? Folks, the conversation will continue as we have day 2 of the Culture's Black Men Summit, where we're redefining and celebrating Blackhood and Black manhood. And we're talking about Black men in politics. Join the conversation. Go into Roland Martin's YouTube page and be a Culture crew member for the day. And stay tuned. It's the Culture's Black Men Summit here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
A lot of stuff that we're not getting, you get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the Culture's Black Men Summit, redefining and celebrating Black manhood. We are into day 2 of our summit, where we're talking about Black men in politics. And joining me has been 2 dynamic brothers who I love and appreciate a lot. We have Dr. Reverend Todd Eury, that is joining us live from Baltimore. He's checking in to share his thoughts as he's been a man in and around political spaces for many, many years, as well as doing social justice and community activism and grassroots work. And also joining me is my brother Rashad, who serves as the executive director for the nonprofit organization Community Law in Action, as we talk about Black men in politics. And folks, we want you to join us in the conversation right now as we're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube page. You can be there to join us as part of the today's online culture crew. And folks are checking in from around the country. Have a great number of folks that's watching today's show to share their thoughts on this. But let me go back to you, Brother Todd, on this. As I was listening to Brother Rashad talking about this importance of engaging Black men, especially young brothers, which is why I invited him. And I'm glad you were able to join us today, because I think there has to be the disconnect first starts with the generations, right? And I think that the fact that you have older Black men connecting to younger Black men who want to do something to change the quality of life of their people and themselves and their families, that has to happen. That gap has to happen. But Brother Todd, I know you've heard this terminology. I believe Dr. King mentioned this, and I mean, other folks have talked about this, but there needs to be, in my opinion, a revolution of values in this country when it comes to Black men. A revolution of values that this time around, when we are preparing for this upcoming presidential election in 2024, we have to vote our values and not just talk about what we want politically. And I think those are two different things, Brother Todd. Two different things. What you value and what you advocate for are politically maybe two different things. And I'm not saying that they should be. I think that one's personal politics comes out of one's values. So talk to us as to understanding why it is important for Black men to be connected to themselves to the point they know what they value. It's easy to say what you don't like, but now we're talking about what are the things that you believe in, that you're willing to stand up for.
So, Farajii, there are a couple of things that come to mind there. Some come from the lessons at my mama's table. Mama always fixed dinner, and sometimes she fixed my favorite meal, but she was only going to cook one time. And so you had to make sure, growing up, I was the middle of three boys. You had to make sure that every meal at least had something on the plate that you wanted. You didn't always get the main course, but you got something on the menu. Our problem is we come to the restaurant not having an idea of what's going to satisfy our appetite. And so we allow then the chef to cook for everybody else and just allow us to sit down while everybody else eats.
All right, Greg, hold on, Pastor. Hold on, Pastor. Hold on. Come on, hold on, brother.
What you say? You say rewind. You gotta drop it.
Hold on. We're coming to the restaurant, allowing the chef to make whatever he wants, so she wants to prepare for us.
For everybody,
and we're not saying we're not ordering off the menu. We're at the table, though. Hey, Brother Tom, we're at the table, but we ain't ordering off the menu.
We watching what everybody else eats because we're wondering, why didn't we get something on the menu? And part of that is tied to just showing up. We have this argument, this issue that we often wrestle with is because they're not courting me, I'm not going to force them to deal with me. See, the issue of revolution is you can try to ignore me, but I'm going to stay in your face until you not only acknowledge me, you respect me. See, part of showing up is not trying to get somebody to come talk to me. I get it. That's important. We want them to speak to us. But elections are not about who comes to speak to us. Elections are about us speaking to those who say they need our vote. Let me tell you what's curious in this whole thing in DC right now today. Do we realize they're having an election to figure out who's going to be the second in line after the vice president to be president of the United States as part of what we would call the lower chamber? Now, Jim Jordan comes from a district. Districts in the United States are roughly about 700,000 persons. Not all of them are voting age. So somewhere you've got a subset of 700,000 people, not even the majority of the voting age folks vote, who then decide that he's going to be the representative to go to DC to put himself in a position now to possibly be the Speaker of the House who controls the agenda. All of your money bills start in the House. So how is it that we decide we're going to sit out of an entire process because somebody don't want to come talk to me? I don't need you. I'm coming to talk to you. I know where your office is. I know what I know your phone number. It's public. I know your address. It's public. And the beauty of it is, if anybody's ever read the Kerner Commission report, the Kerner Commission report is like confession on paper. The Kerner Commission said, here's the problem with America. It's white racism. That's a public document. Here was the other thing they said. They said something about Black power. And the definition of Black power in the Kerner Commission report is having the ability to swing the outcome of an election. When Black folks show up, we change the outcome. When Black men, it's like anything else. If you want to spook the political process, it's the same process that spooks them when you're walking through the department store. Just show up. When you show up and you vote, it makes them have to pay attention to your presence, and then they have to start listening to what it is that you're expecting of them, so that when they go on the back and they figure out what they're going to cook from the ingredients that are on the shelf, they may not have your main course. They're going to have something you want on that menu. I guarantee it.
I want to offer some pushback on something you said. Monkey Confessions, one of our culture crew members in the chat, he said, Black men as a whole know what they want, or we know what we want as a whole. It's just, and this is not what he's saying, that he ended his moment. I'm going to just add to that. But it's just the fact that we're not seeing it. We're constantly being told to engage, but the level of engagement, and I understand what the sentiment of some people might say, hey, you know what? This political space, I voted, like we talked about the brother from Georgia, Anton Bethea. He said he voted in every election and he still doesn't feel seen. He still doesn't feel heard. And one of the things, Brother Todd, I want to get your take, and then Brother Rashad, is that if people have a legitimate beef with political parties and say, look, I come out, I support, I'm telling people to do it, but how come you not speaking to my interest? And then the moment they decide, I'm not going to vote in the next election, they're ostracized, they're scrutinized, and they're being told that they're turning their back on Black people, when in fact, they've been participated in those elections time and time again. They tried to keep hope alive. Brother Tar, what's your take?
Yeah, you decided to tap into the quote of our dearly beloved Reverend Jesse Jackson, and
right.
I was able to visit with him when I was in Chicago on yesterday. Look, here's the thing. Voting in election is important. It's an important thing. It's not the only thing, right? The next thing is, if they start ignoring you, and you remember this after, Freddie Gray's rough ride leads to his death, we end up having to deal with, the aftermath of trying to make sure that we don't go back to that same kind of dysfunctional system, leading to consent decrees, trying to figure out how you change the structure. That required a whole lot of showing up that had nothing to do with an election. It had to do with the meeting. We were at council meetings. We were at budget meetings. We were at community meetings. We were at meetings on the corner just to be kind of checking in. At the end of the day, we got to have an entire process. And here's what I often use as the analogy, right? Monopoly has changed the look of the board many times since Parker Brothers came out. They've never changed the rules. And simply by changing the appearance, thinking we're going to get a change in the rules is not how it is. And so while we argue about who's going to be the cat, who's going to be the shoe, who's going to be the cannon, nobody wants to be the thimble, because, unless you know sewing, you don't know what a thimble is. You don't know what it does. But the issue is you got to have a piece to be able to play, and you got to play, and you got to do more than play to survive, to get past, go to collect $200 so you don't get stopped on Park Place or Boardwalk because you can't afford to pay the rent. If we're not in the process to build the Baltic Avenues as we move around that border and the properties get more expensive, then what we're saying is we want to just show up one time and then expect the rest of everything to fall into place. Voting is the starting point. It's not the only point, and we've got to make sure that we're fully engaged as we work around the board, trying to get past community chest, trying not to go to jail, trying to make sure we don't have to pay nobody no rent that we can't pay. Monopoly is the name of this game. We call that capitalism in America. That's the rule. How are we going to play this game? And they're not going to come ask you what you think. You're going to have to demand it. Power concedes nothing without a demand, and you can't demand from the sidelines.
Rashad, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I want to get your take on this, Brother Rashad. Plus, let's talk about what is happening around the country with Black men, getting them more engaged. I'm going to share with you the story of one group that is working out of the city of Boston in Massachusetts. Folks, Massachusetts is trying to move forward. They're moving fast and trying to get people involved in racial justice there. I'm going to share with you what one group is doing and possibly how that work can be duplicated around the country. Plus, I have to throw this historic fact out there for you, because as much as we're talking about disengagement, as much as we're talking about being represented and seen, we cannot forget there are moments in our history, Black history, where we can use them as guideposts for this new and uncharted territory that we find ourselves in. So folks, stay with us. The conversation continues right on the other side as we continue to have more discussion about Black men for the Culture's Black Men Summit here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Culture's Black Men Summit here as we're talking about redefining and celebrating Black manhood. And today's conversation for day two is Black men in politics. And so I've been joined by my brothers Rashad, my brother Todd, as we've been having these conversations about this. And I'm grateful that these brothers are able to share insight. Brother Rashad, let's talk a little bit about what Brother Todd just kind of laid out. We have a few moments left in the show today, but talking about getting to that point where we understand and we not only know what our values are, but we understand our power, right? And I think that's the frustration that a lot of Black men, and you and I have had many conversations about, keep believing in a system that don't seem to recognize us, that don't seem to see us as the people that we are. And there's a group of Black men out of Boston that is looking to change the whole energy and culture of this whole situation. There's this group called the Black Men's Political Task Force, folks. And Lise, if we can put the headline for this group, they were in the Bay State Banner. They were featured in the Bay State Banner. This is the Black Men's Political Task Force out of Boston, Massachusetts. Take a look, folks. This is a task force, according to their founder, who is a pastor, Brother Todd. The founder is Reverend Miniard Culpepper. And I'm going to try to get Reverend Culpepper to come on to the show. But Reverend Culpepper said, we formed the Black Men's Political Task Force to provide political training, voting rights training. He said, we want to lobby for the appointment of Black men to positions of leadership in government at all levels. The task force currently has over 40 members from around the Boston area who are passionate about the organization's purpose and message. Culpepper said the task force is looking to propose a quote unquote New Deal, citing a Brookings Institution article by Camille Bousset advocating for specific policy and programs tailored to uplifting Black men and boys. In that same study from the Brookings Institute, let's go to quote 4, please. Thank you. Only 28% of Black men have a bachelor's degree or higher and also more likely to experience unemployment and lower pay compared to other demographics. Black men are 5 times more likely than white men to be incarcerated and are overrepresented in the prison population, according to Brookings. Reverend Culpepper said, when you think about where we are and you think about the excluded, underrepresented, devalued, and you look at our place in society, we believe that as Black men that we must advocate for Black men to participate in a more meaningful way. Do we need to have Black men political task force all across this country, Brother Rashad? Is that going to be part of this answer?
It's one of the many vehicles, right? One of the many vehicles, as you said, physical representation and a collective thinking to mobilize with the aim of doing it with continuity and consistency to understand that politics is a long game. But that comes into educational, that comes into training, and that comes in understanding how to navigate the system of politics, which is a system in itself and a study and a science. It has to be taught and has to be taught in a space that's digestible. So I believe even creating a task force as such will be very valuable, but it cannot be the only and singular direction, right? Because once this one group dissolves or changes their own prioritization, it then not fits the larger masses, and it has to be localized per state and even down to a certain districts and counties. It will all look particularly different based off of the individual needs, but it has to have collective value that we spoke on earlier. I always say this, and now that I'm aging into both my professional work and just having years of understanding politics as a youth leader to now a young adult professional, I'm making it more. I'm gaining a sense of politics from now. How do you play it with the understanding, right? I'm actively involved in politics locally, but it is a daunting reality to make sure that they understand what your values are. You have to be mindful of the transitions and the turnover between your elected officials. You have to be mindful of their upward mobility and their own self-interest of moving up the ladder from local to possibly even state to even federal, right? And we have to be mindful of that to know what is our gainful wins. I'm always telling folks again, if you're understanding, and it talks about, yes, the social economics, the educational level will always tend to be one of the factors of how engaged we are civically. But the reality is, do we look at it from a lens that makes it make sense, right? Federal, when I'm thinking of federal laws and things of that sort, yes, we have these cycles and term limits, but the federal law is going to have a long-term impact because it's going to be protected in most have the continuity between the House and the state. But then your state level is going to talk about the immediate prioritizations of fundings and policies that's going to trickle down to your local. And your local is going to talk about, it's going to directly impact what is happening day by day. So that's how I engage with a Black man. I'm first asking them, what is your immediate needs? What is your immediate values, right? What has been your long-term frustration? And then we categorize that to make it to say, all right, you may want to turn your attention to this, but know that in between of you going for this long-term game, these players are changing. The system is not, not playing. The players are changing, but are you willing to be a lifelong dedicated fan of politics and your interests and your values as much as you're just a long-term fan of your favorite sports team, right? It's no reason to die a Dallas Cowboy fan and you don't understand all the way to young childhood till you go into your elderhood and you don't understand what has been your values from a young person to an older adult. I mean, it has to be interchangeable and we have to shift out Jersey, right? I went from playing athleticism to playing the game of politics, and I see it in the same nature. I might love this team, but I know I may have to switch out my quarterback, and that's how we
there it is.
Our elected officials.
I'm right there with you, Brother Todd, and we got a couple of moments left. And when I'm listening to Rashad, listening to you, when I think about the work that those brothers are doing down in Boston, the Black Men's Political Task Force, something comes to mind. Now, I had to pull this one out, but this is the book right here. It's called The Defeat of Black Power, Civil Rights in the National Black Political Convention of 1972. If you have not had a chance to do your history, look up the National Black Political Convention of 1972. And I think, Brother Todd, that when we talk about political power, that's why I said, see, some of us, we kind of come to the silly space of this ain't never, no. Black people history in this country, when you're talking about coming from a space of chattel slavery all the way up until this present moment, we have actually, I think, Brother Todd, we have touched potential ideas for our liberation through this sojourn, through our time here on the shores of America. But for part of the culture has been to forget the past and act as if nothing has happened, and then we're supposed to create a new future, when there has been moments throughout our own Black history where we have seen glimpses of greatness. Yesterday, we celebrate the 28th anniversary of the historic Million Man March, because people was like, man, we ain't had no marches. What? Let's just look at what happened 28 years ago, right? That's not a long time in the big scheme of things. People say, well, Black folks never had political power. 1972, Gary, Indiana. Black folks came by the thousands, crowded a high school gym. This is right outside of Chicago, and started to map out for a 3-day period what the national Black political strategy will be. So Brother Todd, help me to understand as we wrap up this part of the discussion, how do we start to tap into our history to start looking at those moments in history as guiding posts? Because we are in a different space, granted. We have more challenges, granted. There's more technology and all of this thing, but we're still at the same place. Very quickly, I heard Reverend Jesse Jackson say this, 1995, his strategy when he was helping to organize the Million Man March, he said there were 8 million people, Black people, that were unregistered to vote. Our strategy is to get 4 million of those people registered to vote by the 1996 election. That was 28 years ago. That's the same strategy we're using today.
Yeah.
Talk to me, brother. Talk to me.
So a couple of things. You talking good there, as we say in church service. Look, one, you can't tap into a history that you do not know. So that's number one. And if we keep relying on the system of the oppressor to teach us how we actually arrived here, we then get disconnected from really the source of our strength and power. If we think about this whole notion of pushing back against the Black vote, particularly after the Civil War, that was pushed back against the Black male vote because women still did not have the right to vote. And so Black male political power is not foreign to us. It has always had to meet up against resistance that was trying to deny us the full representation of the interests of our community. That's number one. When you talk about Gary in 1972 and the recognition that we would push for an agenda, we've got to continue that. And the new fight has to be Black men reclaim your place in the political process. That's the only way we're going to make sure that we get what we need on the menu and it's not our behinds on the menu in the process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, I got to stop it right there. Brother Pastor Dr. Todd Geary, let me just tell you, brother, how grateful I am for you and for your work, and more importantly, your insight, because to give us an anchor on which to think about these things. My brother Rashad, always proud of you, and I'm so happy that you're able to join us to talk about these things. Folks, just follow these brothers on social media. They're doing dynamic work, but they are pushing the culture. Pastor, I know that you want to chat about some things after the fact, because we do have to get prepared for 2024. We do have to be prepared. But look, let me just say, I think we can have a lot of pots cooking on the stove here, Brother Todd. We can talk about voter empowerment, but I want to talk about how do we cultivate the next generation of Black political leaders in this system of things, right? We could talk about making sure that we have proper representation, but I want to really seriously talk about how do we take away the stigma of the big ideas from everything from Black folks and democracy, Black folks and socialism. We could talk about coalition building, but I really want us to come up with a pathway to connect with other marginalized communities that have been oppressed because of white supremacy. Come on, can we think a little bit deeper? I know we can, because you've been doing it. Brother Rashad, you've been doing it, so I know we can do it. I know we can do it. Look, let's give our, again, Brother Rashad, Brother Todd, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for the both of you. Thank you for being so good for the culture.
Hey, thanks you, man. Always for the culture. And I'm paying you a visit, Reverend Doctor. I'm paying you a visit. I'm coming up for you, brother.
We gonna have a meetup. The numbers in the chat. We got to talk. And remember, Farajii, Mama had 4 eyes on the stove. Rice was on the back eye. You had vegetables over in the corner. You had the meat on the front, whatever that meat was. And then for those of us from the South, Mama always had to have a little fat back to give it a little flavor. So at the end of the day, we got to have more than one pot cooking. Otherwise, somebody gonna come up short on the meal. We got to make sure all of our folks eat, not just some.
There it is, right there. There it is. So we're not only at the table, we cooking the meal as well. There it is. There it is. All right, brothers. I truly appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us here on The Culture, folks. That's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you for being a part of the conversation. Big shout out to the Online Culture crew, always holding it down. Thank you so much for tuning in. Man, oh man, we have so many great people, so many great conversations, and so many great comments to come in from the Online Culture crew. So thank you so much for that. Folks, we are going to continue this summit tomorrow. I will say for day 3, as we talk about Black men in education, I got some dynamic voices for you. Y'all ever heard of Dr. Steve Perry? Yeah, he's going to be joining us tomorrow. Also, my brother, Dr. David Miller, as well as an educator by the name of Anthony Pena will be joining us tomorrow. So we're going to have that discussion about Black men in education. So make sure y'all just get ready to tune back in tomorrow here on The Culture for another fantastic hour of the Black Men Summit, where we're redefining and celebrating Black manhood. All right, folks. Also, we have yesterday's conversation. I mean, just a fascinating discussion talking about Black men in faith and spirituality with Imam Abdul Salam. We also talked to Pastor Jamal Bryant and my brother Zentola. Make sure y'all check us out there. We are streaming that as a separate conversation right now on YouTube. So make sure y'all stream it, pass it out, let folks know that we had day one. Now we got day two in the bucket, in the bag. We want to make sure that we get the word out about this, and let's continue to support this process, and of course, this platform. So go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com, download the app for free, follow us on social media, and your financial support will mean everything to us to power this digital movement. Again, you can find us at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, make sure y'all follow me on social media at The Real Farajii on Instagram, Farajii on Twitter, and Farajii of The Real Farajii on Threads, and I'm on Facebook at Farajii Muhammad. But I would love to connect with y'all on my Instagram page. I'm building the network back up on that space, so make sure y'all follow me at The Real Farajii. And again, we'd love to build with you. That's going to do it for us. Big shout out to my production team, Joel, Shannon. We want to thank Chris, thank Maddie, we thank my sister Lise, and my man King Keenan for making sure the show is awesome and phenomenal. Stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is Rolling Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk tomorrow for another exciting edition and the third day of the Culture's Black Men Summit, redefining and celebrating Black manhood right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Peace.